Series, Finance Vice Presidents. My name, again, is Candace Aller, and I'm the Senior Manager of Student Development at APhA. We're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of housekeeping items, just so you are aware of some of the procedures with the webinar. In order to listen to the webinar, you can listen in two ways, using your telephone by logging into the GoToWebinar platform with the link that was provided to your email and clicking telephone. When you do that, you receive a number to dial in and an access code and an audio pin. So go ahead and do that now if you haven't done that. You may also listen via your computer with your mic and speakers on your computer, and you can just choose that option as well. In order to be respectful for everyone on the line, please make sure you do mute your telephone or the microphone on your computer so we don't pick up on any background noise from anybody. And then, of course, you want to follow along with the webinar on your computer. So in order to do that, you'll be viewing the PowerPoint that's on my computer. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to use the raised hand icon that is on the control panel for the GoToWebinar platform. In addition, you can also type in a written question in the question section of that GoToWebinar dashboard as well. We'll try to keep all of the questions for the end of the webinar, but if you have any burning questions along the way, please feel free to type in a question or use that raised hand icon. All right, and again, before we get started, I just want to let you all know that there are additional webinars that are available for you to view, and they are, there is one this evening for the Policy Vice Presidents starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern and going until 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And then tomorrow we have the Chapter Advisor webinar, the Communications Vice President webinar, and the Membership Vice President webinar. And then we complete the webinar series this week on Thursday evening with the Patient Care Vice President webinar and the International Vice President webinar. And I would encourage all of you, regardless of your positions within APhA ASP, to participate in those webinars because they can be a great opportunity to learn how your different positions interconnect within your chapters, as well as how to utilize each other as resources too. And if you're interested in applying for any of the positions in the future, you have good foundational knowledge about what each position is about. So on the screen, I have the agenda for the evening, and we are going to talk about a few things. Of course, the roles and responsibilities of the Financial Vice President. We're also going to talk about APhA chapter payments and reimbursements. We're going to talk about working with your chapter advisor and school officials, a little bit about budgeting, and everyone's favorite topic, I'm sure, IRS and tax facts. And then we'll talk a little bit about fundraising, and then some of the resources available to you in your position as the Finance Vice President. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, your roles and responsibilities for the Finance Vice President position. This is a very important position because it touches every aspect of your chapter's operation. You are the person who is managing your chapter's finances, and you're doing so by monitoring spending and fundraising and bringing the money into your chapter while maintaining accurate and up-to-date records for financial reporting. And this position, again, is so very vital and important to your chapter because you are the one who is making sure that not only is the money there to accomplish your goals and to participate in your patient care projects or participate in other events, but you're also helping with those fundraising efforts to bring money into your chapter. And of course, maintaining accurate financial records is extremely important, and that'll be detailed throughout the presentation. So first off, I have a couple of slides that detail all of the responsibilities of the Finance Vice President, the major responsibilities, I should say. There are certainly other ancillary responsibilities along the way, But first and foremost, you are the person who is in charge of maintaining the financial records for your chapter. And this is extremely important for a variety of different reasons. One, you report your income and your expenses to the Chapter Executive Committee every year. So by April 15th of every year, you're going to compile a report for the rest of your Chapter Executive Committee and your advisor to let them know what you spent money on, how much income you brought in, who the money came from, how you made the money, and exactly what you spent all of the money on for your chapter. One important thing to note here is this is your chapter's finances. This is not, please remember to not treat it like your personal finances. Fiscal responsibility on behalf of a group of people is a very, very important and serious matter. So we want to make sure that you do provide or keep accurate financial records throughout the year so you can develop that accurate report for them. And of course, that information that is detailed in the report is going to be shared with your chapter advisor so they can properly submit tax documents to the IRS. And that happens once a year, either by May 15th or by the end of your college or university's fiscal year. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about IRS and tax facts. If you file your taxes under APHA's exemption, your deadline for filing taxes will be May 15th. If you follow your college or university's fiscal year and file with your college and university, that date could be different. And again, we'll talk about that a little later on in the presentation. In addition, part of your responsibilities include processing all invoices, checks, and reimbursements for the chapter. Again, this is an extremely important part of your job, as accuracy is the biggest and most important thing that you can maintain for the chapter. Accuracy of financial records is vitally important to the health of your chapter. You will be required to report all receipts and disbursements from chapter accounts and oversee all the chapter fundraising activities. And of course, if you have a very active chapter that does a lot of fundraising, this certainly could be a very time-consuming part of your job. And what we tell student pharmacists is make sure that you are recording activities as they happen, so you're not caught in a position where you are trying to record and kind of play catch-up at the end of a month or the end of a quarter or the end of a semester or the end of a year. So definitely want to make sure that everyone understands that part of keeping accurate financial records is doing them, is recording that information as it comes in or as the money is going out. You are also required to understand and adhere to all college and university banking requirements. Your colleges, colleges and schools of pharmacy and or your universities may have specific banking requirements. So it is your job to make sure that you communicate with your chapter advisor to make sure that you understand and adhere to those policies, as well as potentially the folks in the business office at your university or college. They could be a great asset for you to make sure that you understand the banking requirements of the school. In doing so, you're going to verify that all the proper signatures are on all the paperwork, whether that be your signature or the chapter advisor's signature. And annually, before the semester starts, please check with your chapter advisor to make sure that your paperwork is current with your college or university. This is especially important if you have a new advisor at your chapter. If you have a new faculty member who is an advisor, or an existing faculty member, but they are your new chapter advisors. It will be vitally important to make sure that their contact information is on all the paperwork for your college and university. It is also important that APHA is notified that your chapter advisor has changed. So make sure that you ask your chapter advisor, if they are new, ask them to log in to pharmacist.com to your school's account and make sure that they update that information. Now this summer, we've done something a little bit different. Our membership department did sign up or did create general administrative accounts for all chapters on pharmacist.com. That information, the username and password, was sent to all of the chapter advisors in June. The chapter advisors were asked to share that information with the chapter executive committee members. So if they have not done so yet, please contact them and reach out to them and ask them to do that. The reason we are wanting them to share that information is because you and the rest of the executive committee then could go into that general administrative account and you can view the dues for the year. You can view all of the reports. You can view your chapter rosters, and you can make updates accordingly, especially to your chapter executive committee. So make sure that you do contact your chapter advisor about obtaining that information. Additional responsibilities of the Finance Vice President include overseeing committee chairs. Now, this is not a requirement of APhA ASP. However, a lot of the larger chapters will have committee chairs. They usually include a fundraising chair, a meeting travels chair, or a meeting travel chair, and possibly some others. We don't have specific requirements on what these committee chairs are. We do leave that up to each particular chapter depending on your needs. If you do have any committee chairs that fall under one of your committees, please ensure that you're meeting with them on a regular basis and ensure that they adhere to all of the universities and APHA's policies regarding payments and reimbursements. So make sure that the information that you learn from your advisor and or the folks in the business office at your university, make sure that information is disseminated down to them. One of your responsibilities is also to advise chapter officers on chapter spending. Sometimes this can be very difficult, and sometimes it is not. And I'll give you a couple of examples. You're all probably friends on your chapter executive committees, but your job is to make sure that your friends, colleagues, coworkers, however you, fellow student pharmacists, however you want to refer them to as, your responsibility is to make sure that they are spending appropriately. So sometimes you may have to have difficult conversations with them about how much they're spending or how they're spending, but because it is your responsibility ultimately to make sure that the chapter is in good fiscal health and you have a positive balance in all of your accounts, it is your responsibility to have those sometimes difficult conversations with your fellow executive committee members to make sure that they are being responsible as well. And your chapter advisor can be a great resource for you if you do have any difficulties or complications or issues with your executive committee members regarding spending. So please utilize them as a resource. They can be absolutely vital to helping you to work out any of the issues that may occur. And hopefully none of you will have any issues throughout the year. And finally, another responsibility of the Finance Vice President is to research potential grants for chapter projects and meeting attendance. And this is extremely important because you may want to do more in terms of providing patient care projects, conducting patient care projects, or sending additional chapter members to MRMs or to the annual meeting. But you need to raise money, and you could do that, of course, by doing fundraising, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. But you can also do that by writing grants. There are ample opportunities for you to write grants. The difficult part of doing that is going out and searching for the grants that are out there. Great places to go are to the large pharmacy chains like CVS and Rite Aid, organizations like Cardinal Health. Any of the health-related, pharmacy-related organizations typically do set money aside for the funding of grants for professional pharmacists, for student pharmacists, for healthcare workers. who are out in the field. So do your due diligence and do some research on what's out there. And an additional bonus for doing that is whether you receive a grant or not, writing a grant and actually submitting a grant can actually be a great thing to put on your CV. That's one of the skills that no matter where you work, that's a valuable skill to have. Grant writing can be a bit tedious, but it can be a very rewarding experience, especially if you do receive a grant. And utilize your resources. So work with the patient care chairs when you're applying for grants, especially if the reason that you're writing the grants for is for a patient care project. Or work with the rest of your executive committee if you're writing general grants to get money for other types of projects or meeting attendance. I believe this is the last slide for your responsibilities. I know it's a lot, but this is a big job that you have. So in tandem with your chapter advisor, you're again going to verify that all the necessary paperwork has been filed and updated with the IRS and APhA regarding tax filing status. And again, we'll go into the tax filing information, but your chapter, I'll tell you right now and I'll tell you again later, your chapter advisor will actually be filing the taxes on your chapter's behalf. You as the finance vice president will not, and I will repeat, will not be submitting taxes on behalf of your chapter. That is your primary chapter advisor's responsibility to do so. But your job is to make sure that they get the information that they need and that the file has been updated and filed with the IRS. So you'll want to make sure that you maintain contact with your chapter advisor about that status. You, of course, are going to serve a one-year term as an APhA ASP chapter officer, and you are going to keep track of your chapter's budget throughout the year. We are going to talk about budgeting in just a few moments. And it's also an expectation that you attend all fundraising events. If you are a small chapter, you undoubtedly will be the fundraising chair as well. And if you're a larger chapter and you have a fundraising chair, again, that person or people will be on a committee that falls under your position. So your job will be to attend those events, make sure that they're run smoothly, and make sure that they are run in a fiscally responsible way. And again, the last note is to meet regularly with any committee chairs to discuss progress. So if you have a finance or a fundraising committee chair, if you have a meetings travel chair, please meet with them on a regular basis. Monthly is always a good thing to think about when you're going to meet with them. It's easy to remember to meet once a month, and it ensures that you stay on top of whatever's happening throughout that period of time. I guess I was fibbing. One more slide for your responsibilities. A couple of things to keep in mind when you are the finance vice president is to understand where your bank accounts are, if they are bank accounts that lie within the school, so within your college or university, or if they are outside with an outside banking partner like Citibank or Chase. Now, your advisor is going to play a role with a lot of this, with banking and submitting paperwork. They are able to serve as a co-signer on your bank accounts, and we would encourage you all to do so. The reason we encourage you to do that is because typically the advisors provide continuity from year to year within your chapters. The advisors will be there obviously longer than you are in your position, and they serve as that point of continuity, which is extremely important to have with financial reporting. And of course, they sign and submit all the IRS paperwork and file the taxes on your chapter's behalf. Now, every school is different, and procedures differ for public institutions and private institutions. So make sure you talk to your chapter advisor about your banking procedures, about your procedures for detailing transactions. And again, if they don't know, talk to the folks in your business office. It is also important for you to understand your IRS tax status if you are going to accept monetary donations from others. People who do donate money to organizations typically like to have the tax benefit of writing their donation off on their taxes, deducting that from their taxes. So it's important to understand if you're not a nonprofit or a non-for-profit or a 403 or a 40C, it's very important that you understand your tax status. If your advisor doesn't know, you can actually look that information up on irs.gov. And I'll give you that information on the resource page so you have that. And then, of course, consulting the chapter reimbursement reports on pharmacist.com. Again, log in with your chapter administrative account, and you'll be able to see a report detailing all reimbursements from APHA for chapter dues and for any other reasons that we would reimburse your chapter money. All right, so we are finally done with your roles and responsibilities. Again, it's a very big job, and you do have a lot to do with this position. However, it's a very important position and a very rewarding position. So we will move on to APHA chapter payments and reimbursements. And this is kind of the fun part about your job, because this is how you get the money to fund a lot of your projects. We'll start off with a couple important deadlines. October 15th is the deadline to earn a $3 rebate per member that joins your particular chapters. So our fall membership drive is going to be underway very, very soon. And if possible, you want to sign up as many members as you can by that October 15th deadline. If you do, you're going to get an additional $3 rebate per person that joins your chapter from APHA. So not only do you get the dues from that person, but you get an additional $3 back from APHA. November 8th is the next deadline to get a rebate back from APHA, and that's a $1 rebate per person who joins your chapter. October 31st is the last day to qualify for dual membership to get a NAPLEX, for NAPLEX eligibility. So anybody in their final year of pharmacy school who applies for dual membership by October 31st will get a free copy of the NAPLEX. Coupon codes to order the NAPLEX will be sent to those grads, to those final year students around the end of November. So when they sign up for dual membership, they will automatically get sent an email around the end of November. It could be the beginning of December, so please be flexible with those dates. But they will receive a coupon code and a link to go to pharmacist.com, and they will essentially order the NAPLEX. Of course, it will be free because they signed up for the dual membership by October 31st, but they will need that code in order to order that book for free. Individuals can apply for dual membership after October 31st, but they will not get the free NAPLEX. So that is something to definitely communicate to your fellow student pharmacists. Some additional important dates and deadlines. This is the schedule of when you will receive payments from APHA for your chapter dues. The end of October is going to be a payment for all the June through September enrollments. The end of November will be all the October enrollments. The end of December will be all of the November enrollments, and the end of January will be the December enrollments. And the end of February, that is when you get an extra check in the mail. Now that will go to your advisor at their office at the university, or it will be if you have automatic an ACH set up with APHA, automatic deposit that will go right into your banking account. And again, you will get $3 or $1 rebates for your fall enrollments for the student pharmacists who join your chapters by October 15th and November 8th. And then, of course, the end of June will be the payments for the January through May enrollments. So make sure you budget accordingly. If you do very, very well in that fall drive and you're expecting a lot of rebates, the $3, $1 rebates, make sure you budget accordingly, because you will not get that money until about the end of February in 2016. So just a couple slides here about working with your chapter advisor and school officials, some very important information. You'll be working very closely with your chapter advisor in this particular position. One of the things to consult with your chapter advisor about is verify who's authorized to make deposits and withdrawals to your banking account. If your chapter advisor has changed, make sure that their information is updated with your bank. Again, whether you bank with the university or outside the university, make sure your information is on there as well. And this is also an opportunity to discuss with them the structure of your bank account. Again, is it a school account or an outside account? Will you be writing checks, or do you have a debit or credit card? And if you do have a debit or credit card, or regardless if you don't, where are the statements being sent? Are they being sent to your chapter advisor? Are they being sent to you as the finance vice president? Make sure you talk to your advisor to determine where the statements are going to be sent, because ultimately, again, you're going to be responsible for making sure that the money going out is accurate and the money coming in is accurate. So make sure you talk to your chapter advisor about that. In terms of in regard to proper transactions, that's really referring to the timing of things. Speak with your chapter advisor about whether or not transactions need to occur within a day of the receipt of something, or 3 days within the receipt of something. If you receive money from somebody, how quickly does that money have to be debited or credited to your bank account? Should it be the next business day, or do you have a couple of days to do that? And then also talk to your bank about how long it takes for checks to clear and to be available for you to use as well. So when you deposit money, not all that money is available for you to use right away. Banks typically do put a certain portion of that money on hold for a certain period of time. Again, usually 1 to 2 business days. And then, of course, operating costs. Talk to your chapter advisor again about any questions that you might have about what it costs you to operate a patient care project or to operate a fundraising event. If there's any money that you need to put forth ahead of time, that's something that you can utilize them as a resource to do. And then, of course, fiscal health. That, again, is your ultimate responsibility. So make sure that you and your advisor are both up to date and both clear about how much money they or you think you should maintain in your checking accounts as a cushion to make sure that you have the funds to cover any outstanding expenses. So that's something that you'll definitely want to speak with your chapter advisor about as well. And, of course, filing taxes. Talk to your chapter advisor, again, about any internal due dates. So, of course, you have the IRS due dates. And, again, we'll talk about that in just a minute based on the end of your fiscal year. But are there any internal due dates that are imposed by your school, especially if you file taxes under your school's exemption and do not file under APHA's exemption? Are there any policies and procedures from your chapter and or school that you should be aware of? Again, speak with your chapter advisor about your college or university policies and procedures regarding finances. And then speak with them as well in terms of fiscal health about chapter dues. Should the chapter dues stay the same? And we have here for 2015, but I guess that could even be 2016. Your chapter dues are set right now, or they should be set right now, but for the next year, do you think the chapter dues should remain the same? Should they be increased? If so, how much should they be increased? And all that really depends on your chapter's goals and the expenses that you think you may incur in the coming years. So that is a discussion that you'll have with your chapter advisor toward the end of your time in office. In addition to working with your chapter advisor, you will be working with school officials as well. So please talk to whatever school officials are responsible for making those rules and regulations about funding and resources and fundraising. Every particular school is going to be very different in terms of how money should be handled. Again, who you can solicit for funding, what resources you can use on your campus. Some schools are very open and they allow you to approach anybody about soliciting their time or money or using their resources if you're maybe going to collaborate with another entity on campus, another club or another organization. But some schools have very strict guidelines regarding that. So please do contact the appropriate school officials, whether they be in your student activities office, your residence life office. Sometimes they're combined with your student activities office, or your student union. A lot of times those folks will be responsible for student activities and organizations on campus. So make sure you get to know them and you know whom and who you cannot talk to when you're soliciting support for any of your projects. Use your faculty resources to help you find locations, appropriate locations, and prepare materials for any events that you might be holding for APhA ASP for your chapter. So make sure you do consult not only your faculty advisor, but your other faculty resources as well. And very importantly, consult your yearly calendar. It's your student activities office or student union should have a list of events that each organization is going to have throughout the year that may not be published right away at the beginning of the year, and it probably will be an ongoing document throughout the year. But in order to minimize double booking, having fundraising events at the same time, make sure you do consult that calendar. In addition, make sure that you are connecting with the chapter or the leaders with other school organizations. Get to know them, see if there are any opportunities, one, for you to collaborate on any types of events, especially other allied health organizations, medical schools, anything that you might have on campus that you can utilize as a resource, or any organizations that you can collaborate with. But also get to know them, because when you work together or talk to them about their events and what they're doing, you can make sure that you don't hold events on the same evening or the same day, or you're selling the same thing for the same fundraiser. So make sure you do coordinate and collaborate with the leaders of other student organizations. And then I'm going to briefly talk about budgeting, because this is very, very important for your positions. Make sure you collaborate with your chapter executive board or executive committee and your committee chairs to develop a budget. Now, your budget for this year should already be determined. So that is something that you should be coming into a situation where the budget is already set for the 2015-2016 year. However, you will be planning for the 2016-2017 year. So make sure you do collaborate with your chapter leadership and the committee chairs who are actually doing a lot of the work to determine what your budget should be for the next year. Again, budget submissions should be determined prior to the start of the term, and things that are included with your budget should be the money needed to initiate proposed events, any expenses that you might incur, and projected net income. And you can use the 2015-2016 budget as a starting point to determine how much money you think you will need next year to initiate any proposed or to continue any chapter events that you already have. as well as project your net income. Very, very important in terms of developing a budget. Make sure you adhere to the dates and deadlines and the allotted amounts. A budget is somewhat flexible sometimes. However, it depends on how much of a cushion you have and what your revenue streams are. So if you budget $100 for something, don't spend more than $100 for that, because it's going to be much more difficult for you to try to get money quickly to cover that if you don't have a good cushion in your accounts. Remember to review your internal resources. So use the resources that you have within your chapter, whether it's your chapter members, it's your faculty. Make sure you use the resources that you have to hopefully cut down on any additional expenses. And then it's always a good rule of thumb to budget 5 to 10% increase for future years for expenses. So that's something to keep in mind when you are budgeting for the next year in 2016. Occasions to budget for. Some very good occasions are the APhA Summer Leadership Institute, which occurs in July in Washington, D.C., the National Patient Counseling Competition, patient care project supplies, reimbursement policies. If you reimburse any of your chapter members for activities, or you have any particular promotions for very active members, if you were to reimburse them for, let's say, travel or for expenses that they might have for something that's related to patient care project. Certainly budget for retreats, food for meetings. After all, food gets people to meetings, so that's always a good thing to use in terms of spending money on. And I'm quickly going to go over a couple of IRS tax facts. Again, everyone's favorite topic in the world. All APhA ASP chapters have to file a tax return every year. There are two methods to do that. You can file with your university or college or school of pharmacy, or you will file with the APhA group exemption. Again, if you file with the APhA group exemption, your taxes will be due on May 15th every year because our fiscal year ends on December 31st. However, if you file with your college or university or school of pharmacy, the IRS requires that you file your taxes by the 15th day of the 5th month after the close of your tax year or your fiscal year. So here is kind of an oddball example. If your tax year closes on May 31st, which does occur with a lot of universities, end of May or end of June, typically, if it is the end of, it is May 31st, your taxes will be due to the IRS by October 15th. So it's going to be count 5 months in, and it's going to be the 15th day of that 5th month that your taxes are due. Again, your chapter advisor files your tax returns with information provided by you as the finance vice president, and student development staff will notify your chapter advisor via email by April 15th with some additional tax facts and instructions if they are filing under APHA's tax exemption. And again, this is where utilizing your campus resources comes into play, especially if you do not file under APHA's tax exemption. Talk to the folks in your business office because they most likely have that information, have any detailed information that they can give you if you have any questions regarding filing taxes. We do have a lot of your EIN numbers on file for your chapters. We do for all the chapters who file with APHA's exemption, and we have some of the numbers for those who do not file with APHA's exemption. So if you can't find your tax identification number, you can always contact our office, and we might be able to get that to you. So a couple quick things about fundraising. I see that we're kind of running out of time. Fundraising is very important to your particular position, whether you do it or your fundraising chair is responsible for the fundraising efforts of your chapter. You, again, will be overseeing those efforts. You can have fundraisers throughout the term, your term in office, and the money that you raise can be used to fund chapter events and attendance at regional and national APhA ASP meetings. A couple of things to keep in mind are to make sure you evaluate prior fundraising efforts that you've used in the past to make sure that they are profitable. If you've had fundraising efforts in the past that haven't been profitable, it's probably best to not repeat those and maybe to look into something else. Your job is also to come up with new fundraising ideas and consistently and constantly evaluate their applicability. So if you're going to try something new, if it works really well, make sure you document that and pass along that information to the next year's finance vice president so they know that it was a successful event, and vice versa. If it's not a successful event, definitely let them know so they don't repeat anything that didn't work very well. And then make sure also to attend the Finance Vice President Workshop at the annual meeting at Exposition, because we can give you some additional tips and tricks, and it's a great opportunity to talk to other people with other chapters about how they fundraise, and you can get some great ideas to do that. So I'm going to breeze through the next couple of slides so we have some time for questions. Here are some brief fundraising ideas. You can do sales of any kind, carnivals, raffles, game nights, movie nights, dot-a-thons. So think of whatever you can do, a dance-a-thon, a bake-a-thon, whatever you can do, a talent show, a scavenger hunt. There are a lot of fun things that you can do to raise funds for your chapter. And just a couple things about fundraising facts. People want to give, they want to give their time, they want to give their money. So it's just a matter of asking. And make sure you document everything and evaluate everything that's going on for fundraisers, because fundraisers aren't necessarily a one-time occurrence. They're going to be something that you're going to repeat at various times. So document what went well, what didn't go well, even if it is a one-time thing that you're probably never going to try again. You never know. Document what did go well, because future finance vice presidents might be able to use some of that information with future fundraising efforts. And always, always, always thank you. Say thank you to people who are involved. So please send a thank you card, handwritten thank you card. It means a lot to people if they receive something like that. And always, always follow your college or school's guidelines regarding fundraising. Some schools have very, very specific rules regarding how you can fundraise, who you can solicit, and what you can do, especially on a college campus. And here are some resources that you can use to help you with fundraising ideas and efforts. The last one is irs.gov. Of course, you can go there if you need to find some information about your chapter's tax status, especially your tax identification number. Another resource is also pharmacist.com. So if you go to pharmacist.com /APhA ASP and click on Chapter Officer Resources, there's some great resources for you there in that particular section. There's information about taxes, and there's also our chapter operations manual, which has a lot of information about fundraising and event planning. Here's the contact information for APhA. Again, our website, our email, and our phone number. And then just a couple quick slides at the end. Make sure you do stay connected with us in other ways. We are on Twitter and Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So like us, follow us, friend us, whatever you'd like to do, and make sure you stay connected. We will most likely be at visiting your chapters, hopefully, this fall. We do particular outreach visits. Everything's on a rolling basis, so every 3 years your school should expect a visit from an APhA staff member or a member of our National Executive Committee. So we may be coming to a school near you this fall. If we're not, we may be the next fall or the following fall. But if your chapter is up for a visit this year, if you are eligible and you didn't get a chance to complete the poll online to schedule a visit, My contact information is on there. Please email me this week if you can, and we can get you into our schedule so we can plan a visit to your chapter. And of course, if you haven't done so, register for MRMs. A lot of the MRMs, especially I'm told regions 2 and 3, do fill up very, very fast. So make sure you do register for those today on pharmacist.com. Some additional information about MRMs. There will be some webinars that will occur most likely in September, mid to end of September. So they'll be conducted by the regional delegates, and it'll give you an opportunity to discuss proposals that have been submitted by chapters already and provide information about officer elections and other things that will be happening at MRMs. And of course, if you're interested in running for regional office, that is something that you can contact a member of our staff or the National Executive Committee or a regional officer for more information. So all of that, the elections for regional office do occur at MRM, so make sure you reach out to your NEC members or your regional officers before MRMs in October. And just a reminder, we do have a new patient care project that is starting this year, OTC Literacy, and it provides education to 5th and 6th graders and their families on OTC medication safety. And you can read about that on our website as well as scholastic.com. They provide all the educational materials. The curriculum is already developed, so this can be a great way to start a new project or program with your chapter with minimal startup because the educational materials are already developed for you. And of course, our APhA Foundation does provide scholarships and internships to students, and they also have opportunities for you to donate to help support the foundation. So to learn more about their scholarships and internships, incentives for doing research, executive residencies in association management and leadership, do go to their website, aphafoundation.org, for more information. And then finally, we do have a joint federal pharmacy seminar that's coming up in October in Washington, D.C., and there is student programming that's conducted on Monday for this particular seminar. But it's a unique seminar because it combines federal-focused education, training, and programs with typical for pharmacy professionals and for student pharmacists. So it's a great opportunity to see what's happening with our armed forces and what pharmacists are doing within the service areas. And you can get information on other federal health agencies as well. So that could be a great opportunity to network and to get some information about educational programs that are federal focused. So go to their website, which is at the bottom of the screen, for more information on that. And that is all I have for you this evening. I know it was a lot of information, but this presentation will be posted on YouTube. So give us a couple of weeks to get the link up on our website that will take you to YouTube, and you can review all of the information. So I'd like to thank you again for your participation. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type in your questions or raise your hand if you have anything. And I do see that we have one here that has been typed in. So let me take a look at that. Somebody did type in, is there training for how to organize the expenses such as an Excel spreadsheet to help you make efficient reports? We don't have anything right now. That's a great question, by the way. But I do have in the new chapter operations manual that will be going on our website, pharmacist.com/APhA ASP, under the chapter resources. I believe we are including some sample reporting, Excel spreadsheets for reporting. So we will get some of that information up there for you. And again, use whatever will work for your chapter to keep yourself organized. But we will include a couple of sample spreadsheets within that information for you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up. Oh, hold on. I do think I see another question here. The question is about the PAC campaign and how to excite people and elicit and engage support for people to donate for that campaign. You know, people are very, and they should be, they're very particular about how they spend their money. And I think with the PAC campaign, it's an opportunity for us to provide funding for the people who go to the Hill and go out there and really advocate for the profession of pharmacy. So if you're looking for a way to kind of sell it in a matter of words, maybe tell them that you're backing an opportunity for people to go to the Hill, to correspond with their legislators, to really advocate for the profession, especially in terms of recognizing pharmacists as providers, as a medical health care provider. So that's probably the best way that I could say to try to get somebody to donate to that particular campaign. And if anybody has a response to that or wants to add to that, please type in the question or raise your hand and I'll put you on the line. All right. Let me just double check here to see if there are any other questions. I don't see any hands up. Let me check the questions one more time. All right, and seeing none, I'd like to thank you all for participating this evening. And of course, you have my contact information, which was on one of the slides. Let me back that slide up here really quickly. So if you do want to contact me for any reason, please go ahead and do so. And it's at the bottom of the slide that you see on your screen right now. So jot that down. You can also find it on APHA's website. Feel free to contact me with any questions. And I look forward to seeing many of you at MRMs this year. I will be at Region 2 and Region 5. So if anybody is going to be at one of those two regions, please come up and introduce yourself to me and let me know that you're on the Finance Vice President webinar. And if you have any questions at that time, I'd be happy to answer them as well. All right, everyone. Thank you again for your participation. Have a wonderful night.